Hello, hello, hello. I was going to say good evening, but it's actually later than evening. It's a little late for me to be coming on. But I took a walk this afternoon and I had so many ideas floating through my mind, which is pretty typical for me. In fact, sometimes I have so many ideas that I confuse myself. And I can't decide what I want to share. Just because one thing sort of flows into the next thing, and before you know it, I've got 15 different ideas that in my mind are all connected and all make sense together. But if I try to get on and, do a Facebook Live, I can imagine that it would start to sound a little bit jumbled and pretty discombobulated. So as I was fortunate enough to get outside today, this afternoon. Actually, I just found out that I missed the client session. So sorry, Ashley. I don't know what happened. I didn't write it in my book, and I thought I was finished with my day at 4:30. I had seen a bunch of clients. I had been on my own coaching with my in the own coaching program for a couple of hours, and it was such a gorgeous day here, and I was so excited to be finished at 4:30. And so I got my stuff together, and I went and took myself for a walk up at the reservoir here that I walk at quite a bit, and got home and kind of relaxed and, had a late dinner and was just sort of chilling out, and all these different thoughts running through my mind. And I went to get online to do this Facebook Live, and I saw a message from a client that I had totally missed our 5 o'clock session. So here's to say, we're all human, right? Perfection is not required. And it was a human error. And so we'll go on and we'll reschedule. But I still wanted to come on and share some of my thoughts with you because, I've been doing sort of, between psychotherapy, energy healing, coaching work, EFT stuff, trauma work, and even before all of that, doing volunteer work in domestic violence shelters and as a rape crisis counselor and sexual assault counselor, and working, in the areas of trauma and abuse and neglect for many, many years. I have 40 years worth of work in the areas of supporting people through very difficult situations sometimes. And I can't tell you how many times, and more recently in the psychotherapy and the coaching and even in the energy work and the EFT work that I do, where someone, a woman usually, because I work primarily with women, although I do work with men and enjoy working with them, but my clients have primarily been women over the years. And they'll often start with something like, I'm really grateful for so many things, but, or I have a really good life, but, or I'm mostly really happy, but, right? And it's always what comes after the but is where they finally sort of open up and really share some of the things in their lives that they don't share with a lot of people because they don't want to seem ungrateful, or they don't want to seem like they're complaining, or that they're being critical of someone they love, or maybe that their life is less than what they had hoped it would be. And there's a certain, sort of facade, right? Or just personality that they put on, or perhaps they're very spiritual and it doesn't feel okay for them to talk about the things that they're tolerating or putting up with in their life, or places where they've messed up, or, problems that they're having. And so I was actually thinking about all of that today because, when I did my live a couple of days ago, it was living in the yeah, but. And so the word but was being used a little bit differently, talking about, when your soul or your dreamer or your higher self is calling you up for something, and then your ego jumps in, your ego mind, or what I call your doubter, will come in and with all of the reasons why you can't do that or it won't work. So that was a different kind of use of the word but it was sort of got me thinking, on this track today, with the I should but, or I shouldn't but. And so I'm just going to share with you, like, literally, I just started to write down things that I have heard women say, things that I have said over the years, because, I am no different from you in this regard. I had a wonderful life. I have a wonderful life. And yet I made a choice to leave a 30-year marriage, to move out of my home and leave my 3 children, who were then 21, 16, and 14, with their dad. I left my 2 dogs. I really left the life that I knew, everything that was comfortable for me, everything that was stable for me, everything that I had built for 30 years. I don't want to say I walked away from, because I certainly didn't walk away from my children, but in a sense I did. I moved out of my house. I went from my 2,500 square foot house into a 200 square foot room in somebody's basement. And I walked away not only from my marriage and my family and my home, taking with me only a twin bed and a dresser and leaving everything else there, because I didn't want to take anything out from the home that my children were continuing to live in. But right around the same time, I left my job and I opened a healing center. So I was an entrepreneur for the first time in my life, out on my own financially for the first time in my life. I made a choice not to ask for alimony, because it was my decision, and I wanted to take full responsibility for it and create a life for myself apart from being supported by my former husband. And I wasn't going to share all that. That just sort of came pouring out. But I guess my point is, I just want you to know that part of my journey, and especially a stepping up, as a leader per se, or at least trying to lead this group and lead my clients, on a path of healing and exploring what might be next for them in their lives. I've walked the walk, right? There's nothing along the way that I would ever ask someone to do if I hadn't sort of done some version of that myself, or had some personal experience of that myself. So anyway, as I said, that wasn't really where I thought I was going to go with this, but it just kind of poured out of me. And so there it is. But I found myself saying and feeling many of the things that I'm going to share with you now, right? I have a good life, but I'm really grateful for X, Y, and Z, but I'm feeling suffocated in my marriage or in my relationships. I feel like I can't be myself. I feel like I'm never enough, or I'm never good enough. I feel selfish or guilty for pursuing the things that feel important to me at this time in my life. I feel angry and resentful when I feel selfish and guilty, right? I want to be able to follow my heart, my dream, my path without, getting negative feedback, or getting sort of sarcasm, or sort of hearing a message that what I'm doing is not okay, right? I am tired of feeling like my needs and my feelings and my desires don't count. I'm tired of feeling unsupported and dismissed or minimized for the things that are important to me. I'm tired of being told that I'm overreacting or over emotional or overly dramatic. I'm tired of being on an emotional roller coaster and feeling like I can't, kind of get a hold of my emotions and get on some kind of sort of more steady track. I'm tired of taking care of everyone else and putting everybody else's needs before my own. I'm tired of people pleasing, right? I'm tired of wanting people's approval or affection or acceptance and doing things that don't feel in alignment for me in order to have that. I'm tired of being afraid to speak up or set boundaries out of fear of rejection or making someone angry or starting a fight or having someone walk out of my life, whether that's a partner, a parent, a child, a friend, right? I talked about the out of control emotions. How about this one? I'm tired of my relationship with food. I'm tired of overeating. I'm tired of using shopping therapy to feel better, or spending money, or overdoing, right, to prove my value or my worth. I'm tired of not being able to sleep well because I can't shut my mind down, right? I can't get a handle on the anxiety or the fear or the worrisome thoughts that keep me up at night. I'm tired of hurting my body. I'm tired of hating my body. I'm tired of not knowing who I am or what I really want. And I'm tired of being afraid to try, to fail, to be embarrassed, to be humiliated, or to look stupid. So that was just the beginning of a list of things that I've said myself and heard for 20, 30, 40 years, in some cases, from women, from the ages of, kids, because I did Child Protective Services, 10 years old, to women well into their 70s who have lived with, I forgot shame. I'm tired of feeling shame or being shamed. So all of these truths, right, that come from our story. So here's what I want to say about that. You're not your story, right? Whatever has happened to you, whatever people have told you about who you are or what you need to do to be accepted or loved, is just a story. It's one that you lived through, and I don't want to minimize that, but it's not the truth of who you are. It's a story that other people who were hurting, your parents or caretakers, someone else who decided to traumatize you in some way, they're all stories of people who had their own wounds, their own deep hurts, who then allowed that to spill over into how they treated you or how they spoke to you. So a few years ago, I took myself to the beach, and I was sitting on this beautiful, beautiful lawn of a state park here in Connecticut. And, there was the lawn sloped down to some rocks and then to the ocean. And I was sitting on a blanket, and I just asked Spirit about a message to share. I think I was going to actually be giving a talk somewhere. And here's what poured out. And I'm not kidding when I'm telling you I was sitting there writing with tears streaming down my face as I wrote this. And here's what it said. You are not your story. You are a divine creation made in the image and the likeness of the divine energy that created you. You are not crazy. although you may have taken on some pretty dysfunctional or ways of thinking or feeling or behaving that looked crazy. But those things may have become part of your personality or your coping mechanisms as a way to continue to function, to survive within your family of origin, within your community, within your church, within the patriarchy, right? So you're not your story. You're not crazy. You didn't cause or create the things that may have happened to you in your childhood or your young adulthood, or perhaps even up to now. But though you didn't create them, at this time in your life, you are responsible for healing them so that you can step more fully into the truth of who you are. And finally, I'm going to say this really from the core of my being, because I know this to be true, because I've seen this over and over and over again with women I've worked with for many, many, many years, is that you can heal. You can heal the core wounds. You can heal your inner child. You can change the destructive patterns or the dysfunctional patterns. You can change the out of control emotions. You can start to set boundaries, and you can begin to create the life that you came here to create. And particularly now, the world needs you. We need each other as women to let go of the stories of our family, the story of our ancestors. I'm getting chills as I'm saying this. And the story of how we all took on the messages from the patriarchy, right? About, just the suppression and the degradation and the limiting of women and what we were able to do and what we were capable of. So I want you to know those things. You're not crazy. It wasn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to now change up those patterns, and that you can heal and bring your divine gifts. You can show up as the truth of who you are, and every step in your journey has brought you to this point. And so you have something so unique and so special to offer into the collective, because nobody's story is your story. You got here. My belief is we chose the families that we came into so that we could learn the lessons that we needed to learn, so that we could step into our highest purpose when it was time for us to do that. And I got to tell you now, sisters, this is the time. We are at an incredible juncture. We are at an incredible turning point in the evolution of humanity. Right now, in the middle of this COVID thing, with all the craziness going on, this is the time to do the deep healing, to sit with the question, who did I come here to be? What has my unique set of circumstances and history prepared me to do that no one else can do? I used to have a plaque on my door when I had my healing center here in Ellington that said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken," right? It's a quote from Oscar Wilde. And that's the truth. There is no one who can do what you came here to do. There's a beautiful yogic story and it talks about the stars in the, it's called Indra's net, and every star in the universe is holding up this net around the earth, and every soul has a star, and each soul is here to hold up their part of the net. And if we don't step into our truth, our light, we're not holding up our part of the net. So I want to share, whoops, I gotta find, my computer is behind my phone here, and I had something pulled up that I wanted to share with you. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to share a message from your Sacred Heart. I know I've shared these with you before, and I've mentioned that, you know, there was a period in my life where I was just sort of getting these downloads or these bits of inspiration. And, you know, it ended up being 8 or 9 or 10 of these, what I call messages from your divine heart. So I'm going to move this over here so that I can read what's on my computer. So this one is called, hi Elena, Reclaim Your Truth. And it seemed to sort of fit in with what I was saying here tonight. And again, this is written from, well, it was written from my Sacred Heart to me, and now I'm sharing it as though it's coming from your Sacred Heart to you, because it is. Dear beloved one, allow me to remind you this day of the truth of who you are, for I know that it is easy to forget that truth when you are in the density of human form and the world in which you have chosen to walk your journey of mastery. Yes, this is the journey of your choosing. This is the path of your soul chosen long before you came into physical form. It's easy to forget that you are, in essence, a divine spark of the Creator, born from the heart womb of all that is. You were sent forth into this existence with the same divine blueprint as the Mother, Father, God which birthed you. You are the divine child with your divine blueprint fully available and accessible to you. Remember this truth. Release whatever story doesn't support your full remembrance. Decide to embody your full magnificent self. With each breath and every step, choose to reclaim your true divine nature. Begin to walk in this world as the divinity that you are. Claim your birthright and live it through your physical form. This is truly how to bring spirit into matter in order to create heaven on earth. This is the alchemical process of your Sacred Heart. All love, your Sacred Heart. So just let that settle in. I love rereading these. I haven't read them much since I wrote them several years ago, and it's always very moving for me to read them, and I feel very grateful and honored that those words came through. You're welcome, Elena. So just allow the sound of the tingshaws, the chimes, to actually carry those words deep into your cells, right? Sound is a beautiful way to move energy and help us embody energy. Hi, Eileen, thank you. So thank you, you beautiful souls, you divine sparks of creation, divine child of Father, Mother, God. It was beautiful having you here this evening. Please feel free to reach out if you feel any of the things that I mentioned earlier on. You know, all those things. I have a wonderful life, but I should be so grateful. But if you're living in the buts and struggling in the buts, know you're not alone. Know that we all have our version of that. And I would be happy to chat with you about how to begin to shift that so that you can actually step more fully and remember the truth of who you are and claim that so that you can lead in your own way in this life. So with that, I will say goodnight. Namaste. Thank you for coming. And from my sacred heart to yours, have a beautiful rest of your night. Bye now.